And I want to turn now to David DeRoche. He's the former Department of Defense liaison, and he's now with the Marshall Institute. David, I want to start big picture. A fascinating hour, to say the least. What is sticking out to you the most about these statements that we've seen from the president and also from the Iranians?
Well, really, how incompatible they are, to be honest. I mean, I think it's honest. I think it's obvious that President Trump welcomes the possibility of shipping through the Gulf. The futures markets are already up about 3%. But, when you look at this, the Iranian 10-point plan calls for lifting of all sanctions. It calls for an end of fire, not just on Iran, but also on its proxies. Lebanese Hezbollah, that's not going to happen. And they also say, well, we need coordination, which I think means $2 million a ship. I don't think any of that's going to happen. But President Trump, even if this falls apart within, it will not last more than 4 days. But even if it falls apart within 2 days, President Trump will have succeeded in showing the Iranians one of their consistent lines. And I spent, for 3 weeks, I spent 7 hours a day doing live television with an Iranian regime spokesman. They said, oh, no, we'll never negotiate. We'll never do this. We're going to fight to the death rather than agree with this. Well, they will negotiate. They will agree with it. So I think this is demoralizing. And I think that when the war picks up again, and it will, you'll have a much demoralized. It's not enough time for Iran to reconstitute the military capacity they've lost, and they've lost a lot of morale.
President Trump has said from the beginning, hey, these people are completely irrational and unreasonable, and that is one reason why we need to ensure that they never attain nuclear weapons. Do you think, in a strange way, even if this deal falls apart and President Trump sees fit to resume military operations there, do you think that the proposal that has now been made public, these 10 demands, which, as you noted, are incredibly unreasonable on their face, do you think that that actually bolsters Trump's hand and bolsters his argument of saying, hey, look who we're dealing with here. Look what they're demanding. These are not serious people. The only diplomacy they will understand is coming at the end of a barrel of a gun.
Well, I think it will in the West. Certainly in America among people of goodwill. But, one of the longstanding Iran arguments in American foreign policy circles has been on the one hand, people saying, well, there are moderates within Iran. We need to cut a deal with the moderates. And then you have hawks on Iran who say these moderates are just Yankee wranglers. They're not empowered, and any agreement you make with them will be overridden by the Revolutionary Guard or the Supreme Leader or whatever. So you might as well deal with the organ grinder instead of the monkeys. I think that, again, the main value in this is Iran's hardline position. We will never negotiate with the West. We are, standing defiant. That's been given the lie. And, you're dealing with a security apparatus which has been attacked, not just at their headquarters, but also individual checkpoints within Tehran. But they did at least have their leaders provided them with a degree of morale support, saying we'll never negotiate with these people. All we have to do is endure. We will win. Now they've seen, they will negotiate. And that, I think, is really the value of this to Trump, together with the momentary market boost and the fact that domestically Trump's able to say, look, I'm not just crazy. I am willing to negotiate when it is suitable for doing so. But again, I don't expect this to last for any length of time.
And so you believe that there's a very high likelihood that President Trump will resume military action. What, in your view, would be the, again, red line, for lack of a better term, for what would lead him to order such strikes again? Well,
Iran has said that shipping is subject to conditions. And I think right now, Iran is allowing shipping through the Persian Gulf subject to conditions. The conditions that are acceptable to us are what we had before the war, which is you have nothing to do with the shipping going through the Persian Gulf. Iran has said that they want to be paid $2 million per ship. And they said, well, we'll split half of that with Oman. But I'm sorry, these are international waterways. They've always been international. This is not the Suez Canal that was built, expanded, maintained, and operated by a sovereign state within the territory of a sovereign state. These are international waters. So that's clearly unacceptable. And the first time a ship goes through and Iran says, where's our $2 million? There's going to be trouble. So, it'll be interesting to see who's the brave guy who chooses to be the first ship going through. But you know, and they're going to demand immediate sanctions relief, and that's not going to happen. So there you have it.
Dave, I have one final question. Obviously, this is a joint military operation between the United States and Israel. What are we hearing from Israel in all of this? How do they play into this deal?
I don't have enough. I haven't really heard anything from Israel on this, but I know that, you know, the militarily, the United States and Israel are very, very aligned. You know, they want to eliminate, first, tactically destroy the air defense network. They want to eliminate the nuclear threat. They want to eliminate the ballistic missile threat. They want to stop Iran's ability to reinforce proxies around the region, particularly Lebanese Hezbollah. And then, of course, the Strait of Hormuz emerged as an issue. But I think strategically, once these military objectives are achieved, Israel and the United States diverge. Israel views Iran as an existential threat and thinks that its ability to harm Israel has to be destroyed. Has to be destroyed. I think President Trump, on the other hand, is like, look, once Iran can't pose an immediate threat to its neighbors, we just ratchet up the sanctions, and economic power will lead the Iranians themselves to deliver what may be an 80% solution, but it's regime change that will last because it's internal. Israel's not going to wait around for that. So the metaphor or the example for this, I think, is Syria, where once El Golani took power, the United States said, okay, great. Israel, on the other hand, said, we're not so sure. And they just launched a huge campaign to destroy every airplane, every artillery piece they could see.
All right, we will leave it there. Dave DeRocha, I know you have a million things to track tonight, so we really appreciate you making time for us.
Thank you.